start over. Hello, everyone. It is Justus, and welcome to my space. This is going to be the very first installment of what's going to be my new podcast, Justus Space, which also matches the name of my channel. It just makes a lot of sense. I have been thinking about the amount of things that I want to make, essentially, and thinking about how long that it would take to actually put them into individual videos of their own. And so, sorry, girl, starting out, gotta bump the microphone a little bit. It would just be easier, I think, on me to talk about things in a podcast style. And honestly, that works out because I am inspired by a lot of people that hold podcasts that I listen to. Some of those being like Brian and Drew from the Goulet Pencast. I have been watching what started as the Goulet Q&A and transferred into the Goulet Pencast during COVID for many, many years. I have also been watching the Stationery Cafe led by April Wu and Kelly of Kelly Love Letters. And I also love listening to the Uncurated Life podcast by Cindy Gunter Baldo. And really, I just enjoy hearing them talk. Like, I love these people as people, and so it's become a part of my regular life. And one thing that I do is talk. As much of an introvert that I am, I have a lot of opinions and a lot of ways to talk about them. And so I figured that's what we could do here. So I have my little handy dandy notebook, which is a Stalogy. This is the Namesake version, so you can see the little Namesake stationery here. If you are watching me on YouTube, then you'll be able to see that. I'm not sure if I'm going to be placing this podcast on like actual audio sources right now, like Spotify or anything like that. So we're just going to be assuming that people are watching a lot of this, at least as of right now. Who's to know for the future? But I have my handy dandy notebook here with a lot of things that I want to say. So please know that you may hear paper flipping, you may hear me going back and forth, or see me visually looking at my notebook. Just know that this is right here. So some things that you might be able to expect from me and my podcast is really just things that I like. If you are familiar with my channel at all, then you're probably aware that a lot of that is going to be like fountain pens, stationery, anything that has to do with art, fine writing, that type of thing. But also I like video games. I kind of play some first-person shooters now, strangely enough, or Mario games. I love music like hardcore punk rock. I also love like electro swing and swing revival music. Very different, I know. I'm probably not going to talk about music all too much, but it'll probably pop up. A little bit of pop culture, probably a lot about pets in my personal life. But ultimately, I am someone that really values personal freedoms, everything cute and cozy, analog, and realistic. So I'm hoping that my opinion as a very normal person is valued, So, at least in today's episode, I figured that we could start off with some basics and also go into some fun things like the 8-pen questions tag that Simone and Leanne, what is it? Sorry, I'm going to find her name. Leanne Likes. Simone and Leanne Likes did. I keep getting Leanne a little bit mixed up because for those of you that speak multiple languages, it may be something to where there's certain words or certain sounds of words that your mouth just kind of connects to. And so with the name Leanne, or Leanne, however you would like to pronounce it and however you spell it, honestly, it sounds a lot like the Chinese pronunciation of Lian. I hope I did the right tone there, but which is like face. And for those of you that are new here, I will give an introduction to myself as well. I'm going to go ahead and do that. My name is Justus. I am 25 years old. I am living in Florida in a little rural town that is known for tourism and beach stuff. I'm not going to give that name. Don't really need to. I currently work my real big job in real estate, and I am a very hobby-oriented person. I live with my partner. We got married last year, and we have a few pets. We have a dog named Diesel, and then we have a few cats. We have Whitaker, who is like a ragdoll mix, as well as Lulu, who's a Siamese Hemingway. We are currently also fostering a cat for our local animal shelter, and she's a little tuxedo cat, and she's hilarious. Today, just because I am nervous filming this, it's like the start. This is the start of something new. I didn't want the distraction of the pets to like throw me off. But yeah, those are some very basics about myself. I started my YouTube channel for my love of stationery and my love of writing and creativity. And fun fact, prior to this channel, when I was a minor, I had a YouTube channel where I did speed paints, and I did like Copic marker speed paints. That's the world that I was into at that time. I really wanted to be a fine artist. Specifically, I wanted to be a mangaka. And I gave up that dream as soon as I found out how, cutthroat that industry is. And now we're here. We just work a very normal person job, but we still enjoy a lot of things that are fun, wonky, cartoonish. I am one of those people that I think no matter what age of adult I am, I'm still going to be a little bit goofy, a little bit like a kid. Also, I did want to note, we are in my office, like my home office. And so we are sat at my computer desk, and behind me is actually part of the guest bedroom as well. So my desk is in the guest bedroom room of our house. And so you see our little bed here, got little fairy lights. I have some Junji Ito books in the background that you can't quite see, and some clown noses. The candle that we have going on today as well is actually Champagne Toast by Bath & Body Works, because they had their sale where you can get candles cheaper than they would be otherwise. And so gotta stack up on them because I'm not spending that much on a candle. Okay, focus. I think that we should probably start with the 8-pen questions now. So this is a tag started out again by Simone and Leanne Likes. I'm going to include the links to their channels in the description to this. I really do recommend that you check them out. They are really active within the planner and stationery communities, and they seem like very nice people. Like, I really hate to say like, oh, they're really good people, because I don't know people in real life, but sure do seem like it. You seem nice. You seem to have a reasonable head on your shoulders, but you kind of get what I'm saying. Anyways, let's get right into it. The first question: when and how did your fountain pen journey begin? I want to say that I was probably 15 or 16, somewhere around those ages. And it was actually whenever I was in high school. I had this kick of wanting to leave less of a footprint on the world. And at the time I was also vegan. I didn't want any extra harm coming into the world because of me, essentially. And so in addition to reducing my meat footprint and my impact on the world in that way, I wanted to reduce the amount of waste that I was creating. And a big part of that for me was reducing the amount of pen waste, which sounds a little bit ridiculous, let's be honest. But my problem that I was encountering, I used a lot of Pilot G2 like gel pens, and I would go through the ink in them very quickly. I think at the time that I was making the switch to fountain pens, the speed at which I was completing a Pilot G2 cartridge, because I was buying the cartridges over and over, was like a cartridge in one pen every single week, because I was going through a lot of courses that required a lot of note taking. And the way that I learn is through a lot of writing, because I need that mind-body connection. So I was going through like a Pilot G2 refill every week in school. And one, that's not really great for the environment. And we're not even going to talk about like major corporations and their impact versus the consumers. It's like a whole thing. But it was also kind of expensive. I was a high schooler. I worked like a summer job, and then I had to use that money just to do whatever cool stuff I wanted to do throughout the school year. And as I got more into high school, I worked on the weekends too. But when you work a limited amount of time, you have limited money. And I would really love to spend it on like clothes and CDs and not pen cartridges, you know? Because also Pilot G2s were not the cheapest around in the world. Funny joke on future Justus, though, in that I got into fountain pens because I wanted to save money. It really didn't work that way. But I have found a really enriching hobby that I'm fairly certain is going to stick with me for the rest of my lifespan. But that's how it began. I got a red Retro Pop Pilot Metropolitan with a fine nib, and I got a set of the Iroshizuku 15 milliliter bottles of ink. I can't remember if I ordered them from Amazon or I did. I did order them from Amazon because at the time, online shopping still wasn't as popular as it is today. And so my mother was a little bit sketched out, I think. And so we did Amazon order versus like a Goulet order or a Jet Pens order. And so I had a little set like this. Sorry, microphone. I had a little set like this of the 15 milliliter Iroshizuku bottles, and I still remember the colors that I had were Amairo, which is a very pale sky blue. I also had Fuyu. And then the last color that I had was one of Iroshizuku's most popular colors, Konpeki. I had those three in those little bottles, and those were what I used for the longest time until I went to China to finish my university degree. I got my degree in Mandarin Chinese. I am a fluent Mandarin speaker. I'm not as great as I once was because I have very little practice, but I do speak Mandarin. And while there, wow, in other countries, fountain pens have different applications and different popularities. And so whenever I went to the store there in my local mall by my university, they had so many fountain pens and so many inks. And so while I was there, I purchased a few new bottles. One of those is this bottle here. This is from China. It's Shin Ryoku by Iroshizuku. It is a like emerald green, Kelly green. It's a very nice jewel tone, honestly. It's not too dark, but it's also not bright to where you can't read it. I got that ink there, and I'm sure a few others that I just can't remember right now. Ooh, another one was Sayoro. Sayoro is a deeper green, and I really like that color. I should get another one of that, actually. That's a really good ink color. But, doing that, it was a thing that I could dive into while I was abroad. And then also at the airport while I was coming home, I bought the Muji fountain pen, which I learned that I hate and got rid of very quickly. Because if you're familiar with that pen, then it's an entirely metal body pen. And Muji, just as a brand, their big concept is very minimal design, very clean, very simple. It was a beautiful pen, but there was a few things that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And this is an entire tangent, but you're here. I am averse to the color like silver or gunmetal or anything like that. And so the entire pen being in silver just wasn't super nice for me to begin with. And with it being a metal body pen, it also wasn't finished in a very smooth way. And so feeling the texture on that pen really rubbed me wrong. I'm a very big textures person. I have a number of things going on with me, but one of those things is ASD, which is known to just have textural problems, And so I could feel the pad of my finger catch on the roughness of the body of the pen, which wasn't amazing, and at the grip section. So this is a Sailor Christmas pudding pen, which I currently have inked up. You can see here that the grip section is very, very smooth. For the Muji pen, this all was metal knurling, and it was just so uncomfortable, man. I couldn't do it. I have a little writer's bump, and that little knurling cut my little writer's bump in half. So whenever I would be done writing, I would look at my hand and see this like gouge where it's been pushed in by the metal knurling and just be like, oh, ow, maybe I shouldn't do that again. But that pen didn't quite work out, but I was already into fountain pens. During university, I got a second Pilot Metropolitan and like my very first TWSBI Diamond 580. I went to China, bought a few more pens, and at that point I was like hooked all the way. And it's just become something that's grown because, as I mentioned before, way early, like when I was in high school was whenever I started listening to like the Goulet Q&A, for example, and watching a lot of fountain pen YouTubers. Oh, one of them was Boho Berry. Boho Berry was a bullet journaler back in the day, and her name was Kara, had a ton of fountain pens that she wrote with, and she also had like the Unicorn Barf Edison from Goulet, and at the time that was like my goal pen. I couldn't fathom having a pen that fancy at the time, and it was pink and blue and swirly, and it was gorgeous, and I remember being so jealous of it. But I was also a very big fan of Boho Berry, which fueled my love for pens. Longest answer to the question ever, so I'm so sorry. As for question number 2, favorite inks in the beginning, ? How about now, ? So I was not a very big fan of Amairo, nor was I a very big fan of the orange ink that name evades me from Iroshizuku right now. But I loved Konpeki. Konpeki was my favorite ink, like as soon as I got it. And very quickly after that, Sayoro became one of my favorites. So I had like a blue and a green that I used quite often. Now, keeping in mind that we're like many years down the path, I've used up so many bottles of ink. I would say that my current favorites are probably Platinum Carbon Black, which I happen to have here on my desk because I just do use it that often. Here is the little box that it comes in. And here's this guy. You just always need a black ink, I feel, in terms of being utilitarian, and if you're someone that uses fountain pens as your daily writing apparatus, particularly one that you're not worried about smudging or taking forever to dry. And so I have Platinum Carbon Black most often, but not always, inked in my Pilot Vanishing Point Decimo in the champagne colorway. My nib is extra fine as well. This is one of the very first, like, fancy pens I bought, and I bought it with my credit card points. So with my credit card, you get like cash back depending on your spending and where you're spending and stuff like that. So I used my credit card points to redeem this pen on Amazon. But you know what? It has been the little workhorse pen of my life. But I really love the Platinum Carbon Black just as a basic, no fuss ink that you can rely on. In terms of colors right now, I actually don't have a bottle of Konpeki, but Konpeki is still my favorite blue, at least out of the blues that I have currently tried. And mainly because it is a vibrant blue, it is a very easy flowing blue, and it cleans up very easy. I do not like when a lot of inks are like gummy or thick, because one of my pet peeves is going to write with a pen and then it's like clogged up at the nib. I don't write with fountain pens to deal with this. I write with fountain pens to have a very smooth, buttery experience. I don't want any muss or fuss or trouble. Like, as much as I love glittery inks and sheening inks, it's just not worth it to me. Like, they're gorgeous and they're beautiful, and I wish that they flowed as well as a lot of my regular boring inks do, but they don't. And so, like, I have Emerald of Chivor and I have Rouge Hematite. And in the right pens, they are lovely, and you only have to fix the clogging in them periodically. That is still a lot for me. And so I tend to break out the like special inks whenever I'm writing a lot of cards, so Christmas, birthdays, that type of thing. Or I'll just use a dip pen. As far as the fun colored inks that I truly, truly use regularly in my collection, it is going to be Konpeki, which I need to buy a new bottle of, but I'm resisting because I just don't want to spend the money right now while I have other inks that I need to use up. Sayoro, like I mentioned earlier, oh my gosh, I miss it. Like right now I'm using a lot of Kujaku, and Kujaku, all I can see is you would be better if you were Sayoro. Like, it's a very peacocky color. It's kind of a teal, and depending on the amount of ink that goes down on the page, you can get some deeper shading into that teal. Sayoro, imagine the deep shading that you can get with parts of the teal, except it's pretty much always that color. Plus, there is the slightest red sheen depending on the paper that you're using. That just hits so right. It probably, if you're a person listening to this and you're not like a very ink person, for one, I'm very glad that you've made it this far. We're like 20 minutes in, girly pop. But also, like, I'm so sorry that you're having to listen to me describe a shade of bluish green. But I really do like that color, and I also quite like, I believe it's called Yamaguri by Iroshizuku, which is a deep, just neutral brown. You might have just heard my dog bark in the background. My neighbor's mowing their grass, and he just really likes the neighbor. But anyways, those are the colors that I particularly like. I would also rebuy and reuse Yamabudo by Iroshizuku. It's a very cranberry color. But again, similar to Konpeki, it's not in the cards right now. Maybe around Christmas time I can have it again. But if I were to just have like 4 inks, it would be Konpeki, Yamabudo, Sayoro, and Platinum Carbon Black. I would be happy for life with those 4 inks, I think. Obviously, variety is the spice of life, and so I'm going to enjoy a lot of new inks and ink samples and stuff that I run into. But those would be like the 4 that I could get through for the rest of my life and honestly be content, you know? 3. How have your pen and ink tastes changed over time? This is a very nuanced question because being someone that started in the fountain pen community back whenever I was still literally a child, part of what I have to take into consideration while answering this question is my financial ability at that point. And so in the very beginning, I got a fine fountain pen, steel nib, and it was a Metropolitan because it was what I could reasonably put money towards at that time, being a student. It wasn't a whole lot. And then I got those Iroshizuku inks because I wanted ink that I knew that would work for both class and personal, and those had really good ratings. And I just did not want to possibly buy an ink that wouldn't work out first try because I just couldn't buy another bottle if it didn't work out. I chose fine because at the time I just wanted the versatility, because in the videos that I watched, a lot of the comments were within medium and broad nibs, you have less versatility and less ability to use them on poorer quality papers. I didn't want to deal with that. I was like, we're going to get a fine pen and I'm going to use this pen on literally everything and it's going to do what I need. Yeah. So that's what I did. Over the years, as I've explored more and more, I think that I was really happy with where I started out because to this day, my favorite fountain pen brand is Pilot. I find that Pilot can do no wrong. They can do wrong. I know that they can. But in terms of the fountain pen world and pens that I have received, I have never been disappointed with a Pilot pen that I have received. And they have so much of a variety that even within their own branding catalog, I could be content from the cheapest pen to the most expensive pen. Even one of my Grail pens is the Namesake pens. I believe one that Yoseka showed earlier this week in one of their videos was like a city at night, or I can't remember its actual name, but it was painted with these gold dust and it had these tiny rocks made out of abalone, I think. It was gorgeous. I would love a pen like that. I like, out of curiosity, I went to the website to see, like, even if I did put it on a payment plan, what am I paying here? And it was like hundreds of dollars every single month for a whole year's payment plan. And I was just like, it's a car payment, buddy. Maybe someday. Maybe someday. I really, really want to have a Namesake pen someday before I die. But that was a tangent that I didn't mean to go on. Welcome to Justus Space. But as far as where I currently am with fountain pens, I'm finding that I am enjoying a juicy writer, like a medium, a broad, anything around there. Like, I want to dump ink on the page. I want the smoothest, butteriest pen possible. I want a gem colored ink. I don't want anything too light. Don't need anything too dark. I want to be able to see it realistically. And at least starting out, the inks that I got were fairly bright. And so that is different. I prefer jewel tones now, whereas starting out I bought bright inks hoping that I would love them. And I had to use them up with a little bit of disdain in my heart. But the biggest difference, I much prefer a larger nib. I much prefer a larger nib, and I also don't care at all about outside paper. Since I'm not in school anymore, I don't have to use anyone else's paper if I don't want to. I use my own books, and I don't care. If I have to like sign a receipt or something, I'm using the ballpoint pen already there because I'm not really going to fuss and bring my own pen out. But there's no point in daily life where I need to actually worry about paper, so... Ooh. Question number 4. Are there pens or inks that you've yet to try but would like to? Yep. Sure is. I want to try a Benu pen. Benu is a very interesting brand because I've heard nothing but great things about them. But I'm waiting for the pen that speaks to me correctly, you know? Like, their designs are very interesting and very intricate and very unique. I am also incredibly picky, and so I need those to just match up just enough to where there's a pen where I'm like, cool, that's the one I need. So I'm just waiting for the release that makes sense for me, you know? I also really want to try a Pelikan pen. There was a pen, I want to say it was the 2015 Pelikan Special Edition. It was like a rose pink. I can't remember what the official pink name was. And it was an M600, I believe. That pen, I am so mad that I was not able to buy it at that time because it is such a gorgeous pen. Even to this day, years later, I still regard that pen so highly because of how gorgeous it looks. And I've been on eBay looking for it secondhand, and I can't find one that like is used, but it's used for a decent price, you know, versus used and then price has been inflated or increased, or it's not really reduced enough for me to be like, it's a used pen, I'm willing to gamble. I don't think it's going to happen. I think that I've given up. But with Pelikan releasing the rose quartz ink this year, I have like a little bit of hope in my heart that they're going to be releasing like a rose quartz pen, and I get to have my redo of a pink Pelikan pen. Because I am very particular about my colors. There are some pens where I am totally okay going classy black and gold. But it's so much more exciting if it's pink. Let's be honest. Or if your favorite color isn't pink, then whatever your favorite color is. So say that you're a blue person. There's a lot of blue people out here that I have learned about. If you're a blue person and something has come out in the most perfect, cool, slightly muted, maybe a little bit green blue that matches you. Maybe it has glitter, maybe it doesn't. And you're just like, that is my color. That's how I feel about baby pink, but like any tone of baby pink. I just want it. Pens and inks that you want to try but would like to. So there's the Benu, there's the Pelikan. Are there any inks that I really want to try but haven't? I am honestly not so adventurous about inks just because I am so picky about flow. I am not often willing to purchase an ink if I am not very sure that it's going to work out for me.
I am not someone that likes to try out a ton of samples at a time, but I will if I need to. I think that Diamine Marine or Diamine Polar Glow, I think that I would like to try those. Just for the name, I would like to try Ginger Chicken from, I think it's Wonder Pens up in Canada. Just because I think that the story behind naming the inks after the two shop cats are very cute, and Ginger Chicken is kind of a very cute, also kind of a gross thing to think about. Like, Ginger Chicken, adorable, obviously. But whenever whenever I initially heard the name Ginger Chicken, all I could think about was raw chicken that was the color of pickled ginger. I really don't think that anyone else had that thought, but that was the first imagery in my head. Whenever I heard, the first person I heard talking about it was Pens and Tea, Carrie of Pens and Tea. So whenever they were talking about Ginger Chicken, I had to like pause the screen, look at the phone, see the swatch, because I was just like, this cannot be raw chicken colored. Please don't be raw chicken colored. But I kind of want to try that. And then I would like to try these, but I don't know how realistic it is for me to try them. I want a Homo sapiens. I want to put it in my hands and try it. And I want to put a Namesake in my hands and try it. And I think that I would also really like to put a Kanalea in my hands and feel it. I'm sure there's many other brands and things that I would love to try. Like literally any fountain pen brand that I haven't tried before, I really want to try it. But those are just the ones that come into my mind. Question 5, this kind of ties into it a little bit, is what is your Holy Grail pen? So for the longest time, it was the Pilot Justus 95. But I have since gotten it. So I have it here in my Vaporwave case from Goulet Pens, and this is a collaboration with Rickshaw. So the Pilot Justus 95 was my Grail pen for a very long time because it has my name. It's my name spelled like my name. And if your name is Justus and it's spelled like just us versus just ice, you're not going to have a lot of things that just come with your name on them. One of the things that like killed me as a kid was whenever my mom would go on vacation or go on work trips and things like that, I loved looking at the stupid little souvenir kiosks that had keychains with kids' names on them. Closest thing I could ever find was Justin, and I'm just not going to buy keychains that say Justin in hopes that it's going to be close enough to my name, you know? So this already comes with my name on it, and it's a Pilot pen, and it's a gold nib, and it's adjustable. So if you're unfamiliar with this pen, the gimmick, which isn't a gimmick, it really does work, but it has a pressure bar in the front of the pen. And if you rotate this like this, it will push the pressure bar up the pen, thus making the nib write slightly stiffer. If you adjust this down, then it's going to write slightly bouncier because there is less material holding the nib from bending and bouncing as it writes. I love it. It is my baby. It is currently inked up with Iroshizuku Murasaki Shikibu. And yes, I love Iroshizuku, and I love Pilot. I love those two. They go, mwah, mwah, mwah. They're really good together. But if we're talking about like what my Holy Grail pen is. Okay, so let's do 2 tiers. One where it's like slightly more attainable, and then one where it's like probably never gonna get here, but I'm never gonna say never. The one that's like more attainable is a Visconti Homo Sapiens. I want one of those. I want one of those so bad. How sick is it to say that you have a pen made out of lava? Like, one, people are already like very impressed whenever you pull out your fountain pen because they're going to be like, oh my gosh, you write with like one of those quill pens because they don't quite know, or one of those calligraphy pens. Already impressed. What about whenever you say, yeah, and it's made out of lava? I just can't imagine that not being super cool. And then as far as one that's less realistic, any of the Namesake range that is gorgeous and beautiful. Oh, I just want one. I just want one before I go. Maybe just to hold it in my hands, maybe like snuggle it to sleep. The end. But those are going to be my Grail pens. Question number 6. How many pens do you currently own? I did not count before we got here, so we're actually going to count together. So starting out, we have my Pilot Justus 95, 1. My Pilot Vanishing Point Decimo, 2. My Sailor Christmas Pudding pen, which is 3. I also have 2 pens currently living in my, I think it's called like Dyson Dragons pen koozie thingy. It's just a pen sleeve from Rickshaw and Goulet pens. And in this I have 2 Kavekos. So I have my Kaweco Brass Sport as well as my Kaweco Bronze Sport. My 2 little babies live in there. So that is currently up to 5. And then in this pen case, we have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. These 2 over here are Pilot Grants pens. I have 3 vanishing points here, a Pilot Elite / E95S. This is the line collaboration with Sailor for Sailor Sally. And I also have this Pilot Custom 823. So that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. Is that it? Yeah, I think that might be it. I have actually 29 fountain pens because I have 1, which is the brush fountain pen from Ferris Wheel Press in my closet that I'm just not going to get up and show you because I cannot be bothered. But I have 29 fountain pens, and that's a little bit ridiculous, but, you know, YOLO. Question number 7. Do you have any limits on items in your collection? When do you know that you have reached your max? So I started out with limits. I only wanted to have 10 total fountain pens, the end. That did not entirely work out. As you can see, my goal was to continue curating my collection to where 10 is my maximum, and I just rotate pens out at that point. But I got too many pens that felt special, and it would be almost blasphemy to sell them or give them to another person whenever they've received this sentimental thing that I've implanted on them, you know? Like, it's too special to belong to someone else at this point. Like, it's mine. An example being the Pilot Justus 95 that I've wanted for forever because it's my name. Who better to own a Justus pen than someone who's named Justus? Or my Kaweco Brass Sport. Like, that was the pen that I got on my honeymoon. How special. And my husband bought it for me. So I have a lot of things like that where people that were very special to me gave me these things or were present with me during these things, or the pen represents a very special time in my life and they're mine now. So I don't think that I'm going to cap my collection size by any means, but I do have too many ink right now. I would realistically like to get the ink that I own to like 5 bottles, maybe 10 bottles if we're including the little baby bottles, but I just have too much right now. One thing that really increased my ink collection last year, which I was really, really excited for, was the Diamine Inkvent calendar for 2022. It was the 3rd year that Diamine was doing it, I believe, and it was the 1st year that I actually partook. I learned that a lot of those inks don't really flow with the pens that I like. And so I've been having to use a lot of the inks that I received within the Advent calendar as just like artistic, decorative inks versus writing inks, you know? But I would like to pare down my inks, and I think that I would like to pare down my notebooks. But right now I'm in like a notebook renaissance where I am using different sizes than I have normally felt comfortable in, and I'm kind of loving it. So I'm just going to ride that wave until I get sick of it.
And then question number 8. What would you do if another pen or ink were to come along?
I'd say thank you. I would say thank you. I don't think that my collection is in a wild place right now to where I could absolutely say no to anything that interests me. What I will say, though, is if another pen or ink comes along and I have to, if it's like limited edition and I really want it, depending on the time of year, I will get it. Like if something were to come out within the next 1 or 2 months that I'm just like, oh my God, this is gorgeous, I probably would not be able to get it just because I don't have anything saved up for a cool pen right now. But like Christmas time, there's always something at Christmas time. Or like my birthday. My birthday's in September, by the way, for anyone who's listening. But yeah, I think that was the 8 pen questions. We are currently like 42 minutes into this very first episode, so I'm not going to let it run too long. I want to thank you guys for being here. I'm sure I'm going to edit this down at least a little bit because there's some spots where I kind of just blank out and stare at the screen for a while. But yeah, thank you so much for coming. I am Justus. This has been my space, and I really appreciate you being here. Please feel free to like and comment. Out of these questions, which one spoke to you? I feel like the one that I liked the most was how your tastes have changed over time, because I feel like a lot of these tags tend to be very based in the right now, but it's very interesting to see the scope or the journey of how you've gotten where you are. So I would love to know that, and I hope that you guys have a great one. I will see you guys next time. Bye.